When we simplify an expression, we have to go through the operations in a particular order, what's known as the order of operations. You might remember the phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." That's one way for remembering your order of operations. And what each of those letters stands for, the P is for parentheses. And I'm also going to include here other grouping symbols. So not just parentheses, but brackets, the curly braces, the fraction bar, the square root symbol, the absolute value symbol. These are all examples of grouping symbols, and anytime you run into those, you want to evaluate what's inside of them first before you move on to something else. The E stands for exponents. M is for multiply, and D is for divide. And the thing to remember about these two is you want to perform them left to right. So you don't necessarily go through the problem and perform all the multiplications and then go back through and perform all the divisions. It's just whatever you come to first as you go through the problem in order left to right, that's what you're going to evaluate first. And then A is addition and S is subtraction, and they work the same way. You take care of them left to right. So in example 1, in order to simplify this, well, first of all, we see these parentheses here. But notice in this case, there's nothing going on inside the parentheses that we need to take care of. They're just serving as a placeholder for that negative number. So we can skip that step and go on to the next one, which is E for exponents. And we do have an exponent in this one. So we're going to start by evaluating 2 squared, which is 4. And then the rest of the problem I'm just going to bring down as is. And then next on our list is multiply and divide. And as we mentioned before, we want to make sure that we take care of these left to right. So we've actually got 2 multiplications here and a division, but I'm going to start with the first multiplication, which 20 times 2 is 40. And then next in order left to right is this division. So that's what gets evaluated next. 40 divided by 4 is 10. And then I can take care of this multiplication, which 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And then lastly, I can do 10 plus a negative 10 or 10 minus 10, which is 0. In example 2, we do have a set of parentheses with an operation inside of it. 3 plus 6 gives me 9. And at the same time, I also have this grouping symbol over here of a square root. So I'm going to go ahead in the same step and do the 16 times 9, which gives me 144. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish out that square root. The square root of 144 is 12. And then next on my list would be this exponent. 9 squared is 81. And then between an addition and a multiplication, I'm going to do the multiplication first. So 2 times 12 is 24. And then 81 plus 24 gives me a final answer of 105. In both example 3 and example 4, I see my fraction bar that I talked about as one of my grouping symbols. So what that means is I want to simplify the top part into a single number, simplify the bottom part into a single number, and then in the final step, I will either divide or reduce. So for example 3, the first thing that I want to take care of in the top part of the fraction is my exponent. So negative 2 cubed, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 would give me a negative 8. And then at the same time, since I'm working on the top and the bottom separately, I'm going to go ahead and do this one operation that I have in the bottom. Negative 4 plus 1 gives me a negative 3 for the denominator. And then in the top, I need to multiply next, which 5 times negative 8 gives me a negative 40. And then I can do that addition. Negative 40 plus 52 gives me 12. And then lastly, I can do the 12 divided by negative 3, which gives me a final answer of negative 4. So similarly with example 4, I'm going to work on the top and work on the bottom separately. On the top, I first need to take care of my exponent, negative 7 squared. Since the negative 7 is in parentheses, that gives me a positive 49 minus 4 times 6. And on the bottom, I need to take care of the set of parentheses first. And specifically, inside that set of parentheses, division comes before subtraction. So I'm going to start with the 8 divided by 2, which gives me 4. And then my next step for the numerator would be this multiplication. So 4 times 6 is 24. And in the denominator, I want to finish out my set of parentheses. Negative 3, or 3 minus 4, gives me negative 1. And then I can do the subtraction in the numerator. 49 minus 24 gives me 25. And I can do the multiplication in the denominator. Negative 5 times negative 1 gives me positive 5. And then my last step is going to be to divide. 25 divided by 5 gives me a final answer of 5.